thank goodness. It's been far too long since my last therapy session. So far, I've learned about the inherent failings of my being male and the natural evil that is my heterosexuality. God only knows where we're going next.
Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Chris Hoff, and this is another episode of The Radical Therapist.
What's up, Doc?
In today's episode, we'll be talking about and taking on perfection.
Oh, well, dang it. See, given that you had previously covered the awfulness of being a man and the terrorism of being straight, I had bet your third video would have to educate us on the evils of being white, since being a straight white male is the current trifecta of all that is wrong with the world. But I was wrong. Well, I guess nobody's perfect. Wait a second.
For those that don't know, I've grown up, started multiple businesses, and have made my home in Southern California, Orange County to be exact. Southern California is a center of high achievement, entrepreneurial success, and all the trappings that come with material success. It could be considered ground zero for how success should look.
Southern California is ground zero for how success should look. Okay, let's see. California has the nation's highest poverty rate when factoring in cost of living. January 20th, 2017. Nearly 1 in 5 live in poverty in Southern California, study finds. December 5th, 2013. What's behind LA's rise in crime rates? April 4th, 2016. For the second year in a row, violent crime is up in Los Angeles. Through March, homicides rose 24% compared to the same period last year. Overall, violent crime, which includes homicides, robbery, aggravated assaults, and rape, is up 13.4%, according to LAPD data. So, I guess it all depends on how you define success. But despite what's going on around you, it sounds like you're doing pretty good, Doc.
So it should come as no surprise that a piece of my practice includes working with clients who are struggling with the problem of perfection and the bad effects that perfection brings into lives.
The effects of perfection. Well, there's no such thing as perfection. It is, at best, an entirely subjective concept. Even the definition of the word can't help but to include caveats like as possible and perceived as. Of course, I am assuming you mean the psychological concept of perfectionism, wherein perfectionism is a personality trait characterized by a person striving for flawlessness and setting excessively high performance standards, accompanied by overly critical self-evaluations and concerns regarding others' evaluations. But you don't say perfectionism, you say perfection. Kinda odd. And it's also odd that you seem to be referring to perfection as some kind of external force rather than an internal psychological issue.
It is my experience that people struggling with perfection are often left with two alternatives, all or nothing. The all in all or nothing often appears as what gets labeled as your type A person. We are all familiar with this sort of description of people that are under the influence of perfection.
Yeah, it's true. I am well acquainted with several people like that, much to my dismay.
But surprisingly, I have come to realize that perfection shows up more in the people who often get labeled as slackers. In these particular cases, perfection often shuts down any movement because of its heavy burden.
So slackers struggle with perfection so much that they come to a standstill. They've given up on achieving perfection? Unless being unable to reach perfection has driven you into some kind of horrific depression, understanding that perfection is an impossibility sounds like a relatively reasonable perspective. Maybe I'm missing something, Are you saying people should try to be perfect? Because your video is called The Tyranny of Perfection. So, perfection is the villain here, right?
It is also my experience that these two options offered by perfection either leaves people exhausted or experiencing stuckness and suspended creativity. In other words, perfection has the ability to remove the joy from life, regardless of the amount of success a person achieves.
I suppose I would agree. Perfection doesn't exist, yet there are people striving for it. And being held, or holding themselves to an impossible standard, can really mess people up when they inevitably can't make the grade. Though, I can't say that setting some seemingly impossible goal for yourself and working to reach it is necessarily a recipe for disaster.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win.
Sometimes shooting for the moon is a worthwhile endeavor.
According to Dr. Stephen Madigan, perfection masks itself in the world of attitudes of excellence and high achievement. Madigan believes that although perfection is unattainable, we are bombarded with messages regularly via various cultural institutions that tell us we are not measuring up, and that we should continue to pursue perfection with even more energy, leaving people who struggle with the experience of perfection of an experience of not good enough.
What cultural institutions are doing this? And what messages are they sending us? If perfection doesn't exist, how can someone experience it? You say perfection masks itself in a world of excellence and high achievement, but the very concept of perfection is a matter of excellence and high achievement. And again, you're anthropomorphizing perfection as though it's an entity with independent motivations. You're losing me, Doc.
As an entrepreneur, myself, who has experienced high achievement and material success, I appreciate people giving their best, the experience of success, and the lessons that come with these endeavors. But when perfection shows up and begins to diminish our accomplishments and tells us we need to do more, it is time to take action and get free from perfection's influence.
Perfection is the name of a demon. That's the only way I can listen to what Dr. Hoff is saying for it to make any sense. I mean, if we backtracked and replaced several instances of the word perfection with the word success, what the doctor is saying would sound far more reasonable. You know, the desire for success, the burden of achieving success, the obsession with maintaining success, or the need to be even more successful. Those are all concepts that I could comprehend. But this is just weird.
Madigan offers several considerations in the form of questions that might help someone struggling with perfection to begin to see its effects, how it works, and then get a bit of distance from its influence. Here are some questions to ask to make perfection more visible. 1. In what ways does perfection work to blind you to your achievements as a person, parent, employee, and partner?
Well, first you would have to believe that a state of perfection actually exists, which it doesn't. So if you do believe that, then you're delusional and probably need to see a therapist. Well, but anyway, granted that you think perfection is a real thing, given that we live in an imperfect world populated by imperfect people who will inevitably get in the way of any notion of perfection, then nothing a perfectionist does, can do, or will ever be good enough. And I know I keep harping on this, but, Doctor, why aren't you using the word perfectionism? I mean, you're talking about what amounts to a personal ideology, yet you keep referring to it as a force of nature or something.
2. In what ways is perfection giving you a less than worthy idea of yourself?
I understand that sometimes it can be the simplest questions that provide the greatest insight. But I think even a rampant perfectionist understands you can't be a perfectionist without thinking you already inhabit an imperfect situation, Doc.
And 3, in what ways have you been trained and pressured into ideas of perfection, even though perfection is not possible?
Okay, yes. Finding the origin of one's disorder is a useful exercise. I'm not going to argue with that concept. I think that's somewhere in Psychology 101.
And finally, 4, are the pressures of perfection any different between men and women?
What? How does asking that question help to resolve someone's burden of perfection? I have to be perfect in everything I do. Yeah, but what do you think it's like for a woman to want to be perfect? Plastic surgery? How should I know? Wait, aren't I paying you by the hour? Very interesting. Do you often find yourself obsessing with time? I might not keep that in. That sounded really bad.
I believe these questions open up space so that a thorough investigation of perfection's tactics in people's lives can begin.
Perfection's tactics? You're not even being vague about this anymore. Perfection is a demon. It has tactics.
And then, with some work, people can begin to renegotiate how they would like to be in relationship with perfection.
Yes, tell us about the power of your personal relationship with perfection. How does perfection tempt you towards questionable thoughts and actions? Have you tried to expel perfection from your mind using chants and incense?
Listen, I think I would be a bit disingenuous if I didn't admit that perfection has provided some support in my life.
Dr. Hoff has been consorting with demons!
It did get me through a doctoral program. It's just when perfection dominates all domains of living, like relationships, for example, it can become quite problematic.
So, perfection can be problematic, but it can help you become a successful psychologist. Do as I say, and be suspicious of what I do, even though it worked for me.
Excelling in business, sports, working passionately in our respective communities and circles of influence are wonderful things. But if the joy of participating in these activities is being drained away by the influence of perfection, it might be time to take a closer look at how perfection is strengthened in our lives and then how we might begin to dissolve it.
Wait, if perfection is strengthening our lives, why would we want to dissolve it? I am really confused.
I would love to have a conversation with you in the comments below by you leaving some of your own answers to these questions.
Oh, well, don't mind if I do. If perfection has tactics, does it constitute a separate personality in an individual? Or is it an external force? Or do you mean to say perfectionism as a psychological trait/ideology rather than perfection as an abstract concept?
Once again, thanks for watching. I would really appreciate your subscribing to my channel. And if you know someone who may be in their own struggle with perfection, please share this with them on social media.
I sure will, Doc. There's nearly 500 people who, I hope, can benefit from your insights.
Until next time, I'm Dr. Chris Hoff, and this has been The Radical Therapist. Thanks for watching.
And thank you, Doc. I think you're practically perfect in every way. I did say practically, though, so I have inserted doubt into the notion of your infinite excellence, Doctor. Thus I have summoned perfection to torment your soul. Ahem. As always, thank you for watching.